What if serenity is less a retreat from life's storms than an anchor in a deeper current? What if our fear and loss, weighty as they feel, are but shadows cast by the shifting light of time? We strain to clutch each fragment of comfort, imagining that stillness lives in things we can grasp. Yet the soul's true steadiness arrives when we learn that nothing endures, nothing, save the presence at the heart of all change. Saint Teresa of Avila taught us, "Let nothing disturb you, nothing frighten you. All things are passing. God is unchanging." In these words lies a summons to embrace impermanence, to see anxiety, grief, and desire for control as students rather than jailers. Each moment of disquiet becomes a doorway to deeper peace when we recognize it belongs to time's great river, a river whose banks endure even as its waters flow. Imagine standing on a shoreline at dawn. The tide pulls back, revealing a bed of pebbles and shells. We might lament the retreat of water, or we might notice the stones glinting in the sunrise, each one smoothed by countless comings and goings. So it is with our trials. If we resist their passage, we break against them. If we receive their lesson, we discover forms of beauty we never could have imagined. To anchor ourselves in what does not change is to let go of the frantic work of securing life's fragments. We learn to bow before the rhythm of seasons, the blossom and the wither, the flurry of leaves and the hush of winter. We sense that beneath every transformation rests a silent ground, unshaken by bloom or decay. Trust grows there, not through proof or prediction, but through the intimate knowing that this ground has borne us from the first breath. In the cathedral of our days, every echo of loss is met by the quiet altar of what remains. A friend's farewell, the closing of a chapter, even the fading of our own ambitions, they all pass through this hallowed space. And in that passage, we find freedom, the freedom to love each moment without attempting to possess it, the freedom to feel the poignancy of departure alongside the promise of presence. This way of being does not ask us to flee the world's uncertainties, but to carry within us a refuge untouched by circumstance. We become like the mountain that stands tall though storms lash its ridges, like the star that glimmers across centuries of night. Our trust in the unchanging reveals itself not in grand declarations, but in the humble surrender to each passing breath. And so we stand, bodies in motion and hearts at rest, learning that the divine is not a distant fortress to storm, but the sacred bedrock beneath every fluctuation. When anxiety whispers of endings, we remember the unbroken pulse beneath its voice. When loss feels like an abyss, we recall the silent depths that hold us fast. If all things are passing, where do we place our faith? If everything trembles, what remains unshaken? That question hangs in the air like a single trembling leaf. If everything passes, where does our trust take root? If each moment quivers and slips through our fingers, what remains unshaken? In that uncertainty, we discover a paradox. The ground beneath our feet may shift and settle, yet deep below the surface, a still core endures, unchanged by tides of joy or waves of sorrow. We glimpse this core when we pause long enough to feel our own heartbeat. Beneath the rush of thoughts and the swirl of emotions, there is a rhythm that neither quickens in triumph nor falters in defeat. It is the silent measure of presence itself, the metronome of being that ticks on beyond every storm. This unspoken pulse bears witness to the passing parade of shadows and light, anchoring us in the spacious now. Imagine a mountain standing beneath a sky that unceasingly roils. Clouds gather at its summit, wind whips across its slopes, yet its stone remains. The peak is buffeted by storm, yet it does not crumble, it does not dive into the valley below. In the same way, our essence can remain intact even as circumstance buffets our form. We learn to recognize that who we truly are is not the flicker of passing events, but the silent watcher that holds them all. In everyday life, we chase permanence in fleeting forms. We cling to achievements, to relationships, to the illusion that we can tame the wild currents of time. But each grasp only tightens our anxiety, entangling us more deeply in the very flux we fear. Real trust comes when we loosen our hold, when we open the hand instead of curling it into a fist. In that openness, we feel the strength of a deeper order, one that exists beyond cause and effect, beyond gain and loss. Consider the ocean's surface in a gale. White caps and swirling foam, a chaotic dance of wind and water. But dive beneath the waves and you find a steadiness, currents that flow in silent, unwavering channels. There is power there, not in surface agitation, but in the hidden depth. So it is with the soul. The furious drama of daily life can obscure the quiet depths where peace persists. We learn to dive inward, to let the surface turbulence drift out of awareness until only the silent current remains. In that silent current, we discover a companion that does not betray us. It does not vanish when disaster strikes, nor hide behind the masks of our pleasure. It simply is, pure presence, luminous and whole. We do not earn it by merit, nor can we lose it by failure. It is the unchanging heart of existence, the timeless witness in which all passing forms appear and disappear. This recognition brings a radical freedom. When we are anchored in the still core, nothing can disturb our peace. Loss may visit, grief may knock, but neither can overthrow the sanctuary within. We become like the sky itself, capacious enough to hold every storm, every sunset, every rainbow, without ever being moved by any of them. And so we turn our attention from clinging to becoming, from grasping to receiving. We meet each moment with the question, what does this teach me about the unshakable presence beneath? Even anxiety can guide us back to the core if we allow its tremor to point us homeward. Every blade of grass, every shaft of light, every echo of memory becomes a messenger from the timeless. This path is not an escape from the world's beauty or terror, but a way to live fully within both. We walk amid bustling streets or silent forests with the same unruffled calm. Our hearts may open to love and closed against pain, but the space in which those movements occur stays unaltered. like a clear mirror reflecting sun and shadow without preference. Now, poised between the swirling life around us and the still core within, a new question arises. When the winds of change howl most fiercely, will we stand unshaken in our own depths, or will we be swept away by the surface roar? In that silent tension lies the invitation to remember who we truly are. And as we turn toward that unspoken answer, the threshold to the next horizon beckons. We step across the threshold that trembled between storm and stillness, carrying within us both the echo of the surface roar and the silent depth that cannot be ruffled. Here, in this in between space, the soul learns to dwell without distraction, to stand unshaken when the wind rakes the leaves of circumstance. We discover that our truest place is not atop a fortress of certainties, nor buried beneath the weight of anxiety, but poised like a lone mountain peak above all turbulence, rooted in the unchanging, even as the world swirls around us. In this moment, the boundary between self and world dissolves. We no longer flee the chaos, nor cling to an imagined calm. Instead, we breathe with the pulse of existence itself. Each inhale draws in the flux of passing forms, and each exhale releases our attachment to outcome. With these breaths, we become the pulse of eternity, anchored in presence rather than carried away by the current of events. Our hearts learn the rhythm of the unchanging, the quiet drumbeat that has echoed since time's first dawn. Imagine a dark lake at midnight, its surface trembling with rain, yet its depths remain utterly still. The fish glide through the current, the stones lie unmoved on the bed, and the moon's pale reflection quivers only on the skin above. When we learn to dive into our own depths, to descend beneath thought and emotion, we find our true home in that placid expanse. The storms cease to be masters of our fate because they cannot pierce the water's inner domain. This is the wisdom of eternity made flesh in our own living experience. We have walked through fear and loss, watched the walls of our illusions crumble, and felt the raw power of impermanence. Yet here, beyond all that falls away, remains a place of abiding calm, an inner sanctuary that does not shrink in the face of sorrow or dissolve in the swell of joy. It simply receives each wave of change and offers back the gift of unwavering stillness. To live as the unmoved witness does not mean we become mere observers. Quite the opposite. We engage life more fully because we are no longer entangled in every twist and turn. We act with the clarity that comes from a heart unburdened by fear. We speak with a voice shaped by compassion rather than anxiety. We love with the generosity born of trust that neither loss nor betrayal can extinguish the infinite flame kindling within us. And so our days unfold in a new light. The tasks we once approached with dread become threads in a tapestry of purpose. The people we once judged become reflections of our own hidden beauty and brokenness. Even the moments of solitude, once dreaded, become hollow interludes in which we rest in the unchanging presence that has accompanied us beneath every disguise of circumstance. As the arc of this journey completes its turn, we realize that the divine was never distant, never locked behind gates of perfection. It was always here, in the still core beneath every storm, in the silent witness of our own breath. Our faith in the unchanging is not a belief to be upheld against evidence, but a living knowing that arises when we learn to descend into the heart's hidden lake. If this reflection has stirred your own sense of poised calm, like the video and subscribe to walk this path of presence together. Now, in the quiet that follows these words, let us stand side by side on the mountain peak of our own being. Let the winds of change howl below us, for we are anchored in a ground that knows no ebb or flow. In that unshaken stillness, we discover the secret of eternity, that all things pass, yet the presence in which they pass remains unbroken, forever the unmoved witness of our becoming.